Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey there, is this me?
Yes, it is you. Who's this?
Hey there, it's Alex Ranke from the Poconos, Pennsylvania.
Alex from the Poconos. What's on your mind?
So, all this discourse about opening schools. I'm a vice president on a school board. I got elected when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
3 years later, I'm the vice president of this school board. And we kicked out some insane people, like straight up Tea Party, you know, the whole 9 yards. And I never thought that I would be in the position where I'm being told by the president that I need to, without any support from the federal government, open this district, which, you know, I mean, it's a lot smaller than what you guys have in New York, I'm assuming. But, you know, we have 5,000 students. And we had a Zoom meeting. The irony of discussing reopening school districts, by the way, by school boards over Zoom is not lost on me. But like we're trying to do this hybrid model or debating just going full remote, and either way we're screwed.
Right.
Like our teachers don't want to come back in. A lot of them are immunocompromised or have family members that could die if they bring it back. You know, we have working class families in the area who rely on us to basically be a babysitter. I mean, obviously we provide, you know, much more important service than that, but we can't they have to go to work still.
Right.
And we're buying all this, you know, wipes and shields and masks, and we just don't have the money. Like huge holes in our budget are being opened up or being expanded by this, and we have a shrinking tax base. It's just such an apocalypse, and like I don't know what to do. There isn't like a right answer. I mean, I personally, like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to take a vote as a quasi local legislator and have deaths on my hands. Like, I just don't. But I also don't want. I don't know, man. I'm losing it, bro. I'm losing it.
You know what? Honestly, like I'm
losing it, bro.
I don't know if I have ever felt as happy not to have to make the kind of decision that you are talking about in my entire career of doing this. You know, because, like, you know, it's easy to sit here and espouse an opinion and to have an opinion, and even, but it's so hard to come up with an idea of what I should do just as a parent. And in just about every other circumstance I can ever remember, I would want to be in the position to say, this is what we're going to do, because I'm always convinced that I'm right. In your situation, my heart goes out to you, because I don't know what the answer is. And what I do know, the only thing I do know is that the federal government has deprived states and municipalities and counties of any resources that could mitigate the difficulty of this of this decision. I mean, you know, the only thing that I can say is that it appears to me, you know, that the primary question is elementary school kids, because I believe that is where the greatest, where the least risk and the highest rewards exists, is amongst elementary school kids. They're the ones who have the least amount of opportunity to take care of themselves at home. You have a kid who's 13 and you got to work and you got to go for 4 or 5 hours, or you can call them and this and that. It's manageable, and it gets more manageable as they get older. Kids in elementary school, you cannot leave them home alone. They also are going to suffer the most in terms of what they lose in terms of education, They have the least, their needs for nutrition are the highest.
Right.
It's easier to make up for a lost year in middle school and high school. The stakes for elementary school kids, as far as I can tell, is the highest. Also, on the other side of that, they seem to transmit the least. They seem to catch it the least. They seem to have the least health implications of it. My understanding is that the middle school kids are the biggest problem because they don't follow directions. So they are the hardest ones. I mean, this is from the study that came out of Israel, because Israel, as soon as they brought back the middle school kids, the whole thing went to hell. High school students tend to listen to directions a little bit more. They're a little more responsible. They understand the stakes. And elementary school kids will listen more often than not when a teacher says, you've got to do this. And I mean, if it was me, I would basically cancel. I would have just a core curriculum. I would do shorter days, and I would, with the kids, and I might have them in every day. I mean, the big thing about that people are saying about the pods, like on the other, every other day that people are going to form, is that what you're doing is you're creating two networks that then combine. So you're actually like doubling the chances of people catching it, because you're putting them into two separate pods and then you're combining those pods. But I don't know that there's a good answer.
Sam, I've just been so mad for so long with everything going on, and I woke up on Sunday and watched Betsy DeVos on Tapper's show go in front of the country and just spit nonsense. She didn't even spit nonsense. She just didn't answer any questions. There is no plan. It's just punting it down to the states, who then punt it down to us. And we don't have the resources. Like, I mean, we're talking about the Poconos here. We're talking about an underfunded, depopulated tourist region that mainly relies upon, a commuter economy and tourism, which can't function right now. And we're talking about people who are, 50%, just half of our district are economically disadvantaged, meaning they're on some form of meal assistance. And, we're going to continue meal deliveries. I'm going to make sure of it, even if we do go remote. But how do you, for homeless families, how do you, we have laptops for everyone. We have one-to-one device policy. How do you, if they even have internet, like, how do they charge it?
Yep.
They don't have internet. Okay. How do you do class for the day? It's just, and in the lower grades, what you're saying is all true, but in our specific context, most of the teachers are older.
Right.
So it doesn't take, maybe
the
they
risk
don't
is higher
transmit
for
it as much.
Yes. The risk is higher for the teachers.
It only takes one.
Yep.
It only takes one.
The other thing that I would, if I had to make your, and like I say, I'm so glad I don't have to, I would set up tents. I would do the first 2 months, and I would plan to do it outside, because outside transmission is the safest place. I don't know if you guys, have playgrounds or whatnot, but I would do it outside. That's what I would do.
Not a bad idea.
And I would just set up the tents outside. I would do as much teaching as I could. Just having the kids there, accomplishes something. Having them giving them some type of patterns to follow during the course of the week. But outside will get you, maybe through October, which frankly, I don't think any school is going to last through October, and not in the Northeast, anywhere. And so you might as well do it outside for as long as you can. And really, if the community can keep it down, then it makes the schools that much safer. But
yeah, tell those kids to bundle up.
Well, honestly,
it makes you stronger.
Honestly, October in the Poconos, if you're lucky, maybe it's 50 degrees, and maybe you put in a couple of portable heaters outside and you do it in a tent. And I mean, on some level, I think that's what I would do. If I was in LA I'm surprised that all LA is not doing outdoor classes. I just don't understand it. I mean, the one thing that I think we do know safely is that it is masks and outdoors. It's virtually impossible to get. I mean, there's been virtually no bump whatsoever from the protests.
Right.
And
right.
and that's amongst, groups of people who are peak transmitters. And I think that I think if you're outside with kids, I think you're about as safe as you can be.
But therein lies the problem, because it's if we got a fat grant from the state or the federal government, here's $10 million, let's say, for every district in Pennsylvania. And you guys use this to prepare, if they're really going to do this right, okay, you guys write all the policy, we're washing our hands of this, but here's some money to help you. We could buy tents and we could buy heaters, but instead we have to work with what we're given.
Yep.
Yep. And it's just, we can't, we are, because we have to, but there's this opening schools nonsense. We all know what we need. We need economic relief, and we need to shut them down, and we need to get a grip on this. That's not going to happen. So I'm going to have to make this decision, and either way, it's going to hurt people. And I hate that. I didn't get into this for that, and I want to do that, but I have to. And I despise myself for even being I don't know.
Well, Alex, I'll tell you this, honestly, you're in a no-win situation, but the folks there are lucky to have someone who's this thoughtful about it. That's all I can tell you. Hang in there, man. Hang in there. Keep us updated.
Will do.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too. I mean,
yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine having that kind of responsibility where it is irrational for you to assume that your decision is not going to cost a life or 2 or 10, or the flip side is your decision is not going to cost tens, hundreds of kids, maybe more, problems at home, problems for their lives down the road. And there's nothing he can do about it. There's nothing he can do about it because he's not being given. Our society has broken down. The whole point of our having a society has broken down. It is completely broken down. And it is because the federal government is not stepping in to protect the future and the lives of these people in the most egregious black and white binary situation. There's no room here for argument about we're going to make the hammock. We're going to make the safety net a hammock or any of that bullshit, which I happen to think is bullshit. But there's not even that. There's not even that. There's not even that excuse. It's just, we're going to pretend this doesn't exist. It's insanity. I keep saying this over and over again, but it's insanity.
It really shows the weak points in the system and just how fragile it is.
Yeah. The system, though, could fix this, right? I mean, the system can deliver armed militia to Portland for graffiti. The system, the system is capable of delivering what they need. The problem is the people who control the apparatus are preventing it from getting there. That's the problem here. In this instance, this is what I'm saying. In this instance, it is not a systemic problem. It is there was a tweet that I think that Josh Marshall said, it feels like we're being occupied by some type of occupying force. that is purposely trying to kill the host. And that's what's going on here. Like there's an easy system to do this. It is, we're going to send $1 trillion to states and municipalities, or this. This could be done. It's just that the human beings who are in control of the system don't want to let it flow. That's it. Well, period.
I mean, look around the world, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's a combination of systemic problems and contingencies specific to our government, I think.
I mean,
the fact that kids don't have food outside of school is a systemic problem.
Totally agree. If we had a bunch of different systems in place, nobody would have to pull the lever, right? I mean, a lot of the stuff would be automatic. There would be support for people to stay at home. There would be support for people to take care of their kids. There would be support for, there wouldn't be kids who don't have food or don't have homes. I mean, the stakes are much worse because of our systemic failures. But the ability to address this in this moment in the way that would at least mitigate that is just simply an ideological one. That's just a choice. It's like literally like, I'm not going to pull this lever. That's it. The lever's there. It wouldn't be as effective and as efficient and as humane as having a different system, without a doubt, right? Like, we could have Medicare for all. We could have had that 5 years ago, and then we wouldn't have stories of 5.5 million people losing their insurance, and on top of the other, 25 million who don't have it. And, but we could just say, we're going to put those 5.5 million people on Medicare, and it would at least mitigate what's going on. Like, we have the tools to mitigate this disaster, as opposed to sort of like the slow moving disaster, which is more systemic. But there's just beyond no will to address it.
Yeah.
Well, we also have to consider, what happens to union negotiated PPO plans to keep people from, being on Medicare for all or any sort of healthcare in this time.
That's
5 million people.
That's correct.
Also,
and people really want to keep their insurance. So
shout out to middle schoolers for not doing anything people tell them to. I think that's pretty cool.
Yes. I mean, I know that faced with the decision about sending my kids to school, I would be much more inclined. I don't think that at this juncture, I would send my kid to high school. She goes to school with 4,000 other kids, literally in the school, 4,200. I don't think it's going to be safe for the teachers or for the students. My son in elementary school, and I think she will lose out. There's no doubt, but she can recover from it. A lot of kids in high school check out for a period of time. I did that. And you can rebound in some fashion. Elementary school, I think the stakes are just higher in terms of their education. They're higher, broadly speaking, to the welfare of the children, and the chances of them transmitting is lower. Now, with all that said, teachers have to be protected. And if it was up to me, I'd put the teacher tape across the classroom. I would put windows open. I would put infrared. I mean, that's the thing. It's that, like, I've contemplated like how we can get back into the office, and you could take ultraviolet light, and we could set up a couple of like of ultraviolet light units. It'll be expensive, but certainly doable, and we could create zones around us. And we could also put up plastic barriers. It would cost, whatever, but it's doable. If you don't provide that money for the schools, they cannot use the limited amount of solutions that exist and to really protect teachers in many respects. The idea of like kids going to school, having caught it from their parents and giving it to other kids, I think is not a huge threat. I think a lot of these kids, you can get them to wear masks. If you get 60, 70% compliance, You're cutting down the odds of transmission even more. And I think it's doable. And you could put in a couple of those ultraviolet things. You could hold classes outside for a couple of months, all of which, just like keeps the, if you get 2 months or 4 months out of the year, as opposed to 9 months, it's better than 0 months where they're in class.
Maybe they could move school to the time when it's warmer out.
That's the other thing. Why wouldn't kids be put in school now in the Northeast? Why didn't you start them out? There's been and part of it is just because there's no resources to do any of this. You can't say to people hey, incidentally, we want you to stay over the summer to plan this out. Who's paying me? I've got to do this. You need resources to bring other people on. None of it's been given. None of it's even contemplated. This is a dysfunctional, failed society where we do not have the cohesiveness or the leadership to address what is a massive, massive problem. And
that would mean acknowledging it's real.
Yeah.